Welcome, everybody, to the March 2023 edition of Streets for All Happy Hour. We're very excited to have the Vice Mayor of Culver City, Yasmine-Imani McMorrin, with us. And before we get to our conversation with Yasmine, we're going to give you an exciting update on our state efforts, talk about the Ballona Creek bike path extension, give you a sneak preview of a new culture change video we're about to launch, talk about a new campaign we're launching in Westwood. We're going to announce an endorsement for the special election for Council District 6 and go over a few wins and fails of the month. Our icebreaker this time is, what is your favorite thing to do in Culver City? I'm going to pass it over to Bubba, who's going to answer that question and give us an update on state stuff. Bubba.
Thanks, Michael. I have to say, I'm going to steal everyone's answer, but riding my bike down by Ballona to the beach. I just got my Rad Power big basket that I'm going to put my puppy in and drive him to the beach. Hopefully he's like chill about that. On the state legislation end, we're super excited because we finally know what bills that Streets for All has been working on are going to be authored this, or are already authored for this legislative session. So if you go to the next slide, we are going to quickly recap you on what happened last year. We ended up sponsoring 5 bills. So 5 bills really, wouldn't have been possible without Streets for All sort of hammering out the details with the authors. We had a bill to pay low-income families with no car a tax credit. We had a bill to create bus shelters and street furniture across the state. One to standardize pedestrian head starts at intersections so the pedestrians are super visible. One to require cities to put traffic calming on their most deadly streets. And finally, a bill to require drivers fix illegally modified mufflers. And if you go to the next slide, 3 out of 5 of those bills last year passed. So yeah, we were pretty happy. This is our first year sponsoring any legislation. So you're excited that we passed 3 bills into law. And in the next slide, you can see what we're doing this year. We're sponsoring 10 bills. So we have doubled our sponsoring bills impact. And we're excited about what we are pushing this year and what we actually got authored. So very quickly, a bill that would prohibit landlords from charging you automatically for a parking space. So it would unbundle rent from parking. So if you don't have a car, you don't have to pay. A bill to study increasing registration fees for heavy vehicles, because we know heavier vehicles, are more taxing on our infrastructure and are more dangerous. A bill to create spaces near crosswalks that cars can't park to increase visibility of pedestrians, called daylighting. And then 3 bills with Isaac Bryan. One to collect data on our existing street furniture, like bus shelters, kind of like the bill last year, but just to collect the data of what we have, so that we can follow up with another bill later, actually creating a lot more bus infrastructure and street furniture where needed. And then a bill to decriminalize fare evasion, also by Isaac Bryan. You can get up to 90 days in jail for jumping a turnstile. It's insane. And we're going to end that with this bill to decriminalize fare evasion. And then a bill to, finally with Isaac Bryan's office, legalize biking on the sidewalk when no safe bike infrastructure exists. So if you can't bike safely on the street, you should not be penalized for biking on the sidewalk. And obviously that's something that impacts our brown and black riders more than anyone else. If you go to the next slide, here are our 4 other bills, 3 from Portantino, 1 to amend the Brown Act to allow LA public meetings to continue to be virtual like they were during the pandemic, so the advocates can continue our work, which is much easier to do when we have virtual meetings. And then 1 to appoint a Caltrans bike czar to look out for bike projects. And then finally from Portantino's office, prohibiting landlords from prohibiting e-bikes in their apartments. We've seen a lot of e-bike battery issues in New York, but we don't think the answer is prohibiting e-bikes. So we don't want to see any landlords saying you can't have an e-bike in your home. And then finally, a bill to increase transparency at Caltrans by creating new KPIs for Caltrans to report on. Those are the bills that we're sponsoring this year, 10 bills, super excited about them. And a few of them were already making noise in the media, and we're getting a lot of press for. A bill about that bill I mentioned about increasing registration fees for heavy vehicles, got on Fox, LA Times, CBS. And in the next slide, the bill about daylighting also got on some good press outlets, including our co-director of state, Mark Vuksevich, was interviewed about it. And so, yeah, we're making noise out there, pushing these bills, and whether they succeed or not, obviously we want them to succeed, they're making an impact already. So our first hearings are on March 20 and March 21 in about a week and a half. So we'll have some news after that. And I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Michael to talk about Ballona Creek.
Thanks, Bubba. One of my favorite things is honestly move Culver City. I know that's probably an easy answer, but I can feel the difference when I cross the border between LA and Culver City in a very good way. And so I'm a big fan. So a recap, I think we've talked about this a lot lately, so most people are probably familiar, but we are working to extend the Ballona Creek bike path east from Sid Cronenthal Park in Culver City to Venice and Cochrane, where the creek actually ends. And last time this month, during happy hour, we said we expected financial support from CD10, the City of Culver City, Holly Mitchell, and the Baldwin Hills Conservancy. And the really exciting thing, I'm sorry for this kind of terrible picture, but the most important thing is last Monday, I presented to the Culver City City Council and including our guest, thank you, we got a unanimous support for them to contribute $100,000 towards this feasibility study. So since this time last month, we've made a lot of progress. We've raised $250,000 of the $430,000 in about 2 weeks. In about a week. The Baldwin Hills Conservancy is going to vote on our grant application. That'll be another 150. And we're getting pretty close to the money we need, hoping to get this going by the end of March. And thank you everybody that supported this project. Another thing I'm really excited to announce is we have a whole bunch of videos coming out around changing culture, getting people to rethink how they behave behind the wheel, rethink about how they think about street space in Los Angeles. So I'm going to give you a sneak preview. This is almost final. It's final enough to show everybody. And I think so thankful to all the volunteers that worked on this. One of them, Russell Bates, who I believe is watching. Thank you, Russell, for all your effort. And here we go. Make sure your sound is on.
Traffic is killing me. I'll be there in a second. I'm gonna cut through this neighborhood. So I got a ticket last week, man. Yeah, speeding. $200. Oh shit. Look at this. I wish you could see this. Hey, come on, move over. Move over. Hey, I'm slowing down here. Move over. I pay taxes here, huh? You know, sometimes I just wanna... Ah! Stay on the sidewalk where you belong. The streets are for cars. You're killing me. Come on.
So very excited for that to come out into the wild. And by the way, that is Taylor Nichols, who is a professional actor and also a huge bike advocate in the city of Los Angeles. I am going to pass it over. Sorry, I'm going to pass it over to Josh now to talk about Westwood.
Thanks, Michael. I don't go to Culver City too often, but I do climb. And so I really enjoy going to Cliffs of Id. It's a really cute gym. Today, we're talking about Westwood Connected, which is a new campaign that we're launching. You can see a map of it here. This is about connecting the UCLA Westwood area. It's really focused on the expansion of the Purple Line and then also advocating for a heavy rail stop dedicated at UCLA, and then building pedestrian, bike, and bus connections between these different nodes. So you can see that there's a dedicated heavy rail stop at UCLA, there's pedestrian improvements across the village, and then protected bike lanes, these green lines on Gailey, Westwood, and Wilshire, and then also fixing the gaps in the bus lane network along Wilshire. If you go to the next slide, you can see this is a rendering of what a protected bike lane and a raised crosswalk could look like on Westwood Boulevard or Westwood Avenue. And then if you go to the next slide, this is a protected bike lane and then an all-way walk crossing on Gailey. So we've put together a coalition. You can go to westwoodconnected.com to learn more. And we're really excited. We'll have more news about this coming soon. I'm going to pass it over to Olga to talk about CD6 endorsements.
Hey, everybody. My favorite thing to do in Culver City, where I work, so I'm there a lot, is to check out the Tuesday farmers market. It's the best farmers market in the city, in my opinion. And there's a lady there who sells pickled daikon that is the best I've ever had. It's my favorite food. I'm there every week, and we got so many of our healthy street signatures at that market. So favorite place. I'm going to talk about our CD6 endorsement. We are very excited to announce that we are going to be co-endorsing both Marco and Antoinette. The reason being is this is a primary coming up in April. And after that, there's going to be a top 2 general. So these are the 2 candidates who had the best performance in our debate and the best answers on our questionnaire. They were very, very, very close. So we decided to go with both of them because having these 2 in the general would mean an incredible sea change in the way we talk about transit in the San Fernando Valley. So stay tuned. We'll have more info about how you can support either of them in our coming newsletters. I'm going to pass it over to Kyle.
Thanks, Olga. Super happy to kick us off with wins and fails of the month. For my favorite thing to do in Culver City, probably just very simply hanging out downtown. I feel like LA desperately needs more plazas and open space. It's one of the few places I can go and just let my kids run around and not be too worried about car traffic. And yeah, it's just always a nice chill time. Get some ice cream, hear some music, see other folks. Yeah. So happy to talk about our first win, permanent al fresco, where, as you all know, it was wildly popular during the pandemic. But there's, there was the recent efforts to make it permanent have been met with like this red tape heavy proposal by the city, which is typical process for the city, right? But because of recent business owner pushback, the plan is being revisited. The draft ordinance is being revisited. And so there will be a new version around the end of March. So definitely, so it's a short-term win. Definitely keep monitoring and continue to send your comments to alfresco.planning@lacity.org. And we hope to see this one all the way through so that we can keep it permanent, but make it easy for businesses to apply. Next, I'm passing it to...
I think it's me.
Yeah, Jenny.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do in Culver City, a few years ago, a friend took me to the Museum of Jurassic Technology, and it's such an interesting space. And the less I say about it, the better. I think you should just experience it. So this is a fail. Caltrans is required to publish an update to their State Highway System Management Plan, or the SHSMP, every 2 years. And for their update this year, they're claiming that they have around 1,600 miles of complete streets, but nearly all of them lacked safe bike, pedestrian, or dedicated bus lanes, dedicated bus infrastructure and facilities. So just because a street has a sidewalk on one side, that doesn't make it a complete street. And according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, complete streets are streets designed and operated to enable safe use and support mobility for all users. Those include people of all ages and abilities, regardless of whether they are traveling as drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, or public transportation riders. And most of the state highway system either looks like, an actual highway, or what you see in the photo here, which is State Highway 1 on Lincoln Boulevard in Playa del Rey. And that's why we considered this a fail and asked our network to submit public comment to Caltrans to, call them out on their claim. And I think next I'm passing it back to Olga.
Thank you. So if anyone here was at our happy hour last month, you heard about this. If you've ever biked or driven through LA, you've probably noticed streets like the one in this picture that have these arbitrary cutouts. That's because LA had a very obscure old law that required developers, whenever they put up a new building, to spot widen the street directly in front of it. The idea was that over time, streets would get wider automatically. Recently, Nithya, Bonin, and John Lee and Blumenfield were kind of like, that makes zero sense. So all of them introduced an amazing motion that just passed unanimously at City Council, ending this practice because we know wider streets aren't good for anyone. So that is a big win for us. We lobbied on this really hard. We've been talking to Nithya about this one for a really long time. And
they'll be hosting the second ever vehicular closure of Arroyo Seco Parkway up towards Pasadena. And that's pretty cool because, we really have only ever thought of this space as for cars. If you are familiar with the historical significance of Arroyo Seco Parkway, it's one of the first freeways in the USA, one of the first parkways. And so its entire narrative for decades has been around car use. And so just to be able to have it open to active mobility and take those curves at non-life-threatening speeds for once will be nice. And so stay tuned as we get closer to the target date. It's still a proposal right now, but we'll definitely let you know once it is booked and all of the details are set. And kicking it to Michael.
Thanks, Kyle. As a reminder, as always, you can volunteer, donate, or subscribe to our emails and socials at streetsforall.org/get-involved. Also, we talk about our merch store a lot. We're really excited to announce a new merch partnership with Cleverhood. If you're not familiar with this brand, they're based in Rhode Island. They make the most amazing rain jackets and especially rain capes. I have ridden my bike in the rain with one of these rain capes, and I literally somehow don't get wet at all. It's pretty cool. You get 15% off just for being part of the Streets for All community. You can learn more at streetsforall.org/Cleverhood. And we also get a percentage of every sale that helps support our mission. Quick preview for April. We're excited to have Los Angeles CD5 Councilmember Katie Yaroslavsky, and that will be April 12th at 5 p.m. So I am so excited to welcome Yasmine-Imani McMorrin. Let me go ahead and stop my screen share. Yasmine-Imani McMorrin is an attorney, equity advocate, and a mom, and the first Black woman to serve as council member and now vice mayor of Culver City. Vice Mayor McMorrin also serves as the Director of Education Equity for the Children's Defense Fund of California. She's a graduate of the Los Angeles African American Women's Public Policy Institute and New Leaders Council, Los Angeles, and earned her JD from Rutgers School of Law and BA in Economics from Spelman College. The Vice Mayor has led on mobility issues for Culver City, including successfully eliminating parking minimums, reopening the Jackson Gate to Ballona Creek, and of course, completing the region's first fully complete street project in Move Culver City. Thank you so much for being here, Yasmine. And I am going to turn it over to Bubba, who's going to ask you our first question.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And yes, thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for being here. So starting off with just a subject that's on our minds, and it's a sensitive one, but just wanted to get your thoughts when it's fresh. This morning, you posted a video of the yearly budget hearings where you asked if the city's non-carceral mobile crisis response team, which has been years in the making, could be expedited. And the city manager responded with this very emotional outburst directed at you. And when I watched it, it was, a great example of what happens when advocates, especially women and people of color, face when they attempt to challenge these harmful systems. And these are the same systems that Streets for All is working to change. So my question to you is, what was your experience on that dais when that was going on, and what do you take from that moment?
Well, we started with the easy one, didn't we, Bubba? But I just want to thank y'all so much for having me this afternoon, this evening. I hope that y'all are safe and well. I have a lot of respect for the work that Streets for All does. Any way that I can be supportive. That video was amazing. I hope to amplify it. I look forward to amplifying it across social. And please keep up the good work because the fight is so necessary. So hey, y'all. My name is Yasmine-Imani McMorrin. Pronouns are she, her, hers. Was elected in 2020 and became vice mayor in December of 2022. In terms of what happened last night. And I think I'm still processing it. I don't know if I ever, and, as a, if you're any traditionally marginalized group, you experience various forms of, microaggressions or slights, that is not new. But, the city manager is technically is like, reports to the city council. And in all of my years, I haven't been in Culver City that long, but all of my years going to meetings, and I just never have seen our city manager behave in any way as he behaved with me last evening. And I've only cried, and not to be super vulnerable, but I've cried twice since I've been on the council, and they have been since the council majority has flipped, because it was really nice initially, y'all. I didn't know I didn't know how good I had it. The first night that I had to go in the back and try to get myself together was the night that the anti-cramping ordinance moved forward in January. And it was really, heartbreaking to see so many unhoused neighbors who came out and share their stories, and to have those stories discarded to move forward with a really harmful enforcement first ordinance. And last night, it was just, I'm still, these systems that prioritize white, male, cis, heterosexual voices over anyone else's, I think, it is, folks do not want to hear anything that is anything other than the status quo, or anything other than the voices and the interests that have been previously served. And I think that my voice that consistently calls a thing, asks questions as my primary tool now of accountability, and trying to move, make sure that folks know what's going on. And that was so clearly, categorized in a way that was, I don't know. So I'm still processing it, y'all. Therapy is next week, so I'll be there. But it's disappointing. It's hurtful. I know that he would not have done that to any of my, white male colleagues, because that behavior has never been exhibited ever that I've seen so far. And I probably won't get an apology. I'm not holding my breath. In fact, the mayor, I think, apologized for my behavior to the city manager for asking about a timeline when this unarmed response would come online. And this isn't something that's unique. There are many examples of unarmed response across the country. So we're not creating something that no one else has done, and there's no models. And, so it's, I don't know. I wish things weren't the way they are, but really grateful for the support that I've received since from community members. And yeah, we got to keep fighting, because this world, it should be safe to ask questions about when systems that were voted on by colleagues will come online, because that is the directive, and that is the job of the city manager to see those policies come forward. So here we are.
Bubba, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was just saying thank you for talking to us about it. We appreciate that. And yeah, on over to Jenny.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that and speaking out and continuing that fight. The next question is a little lighter. So like myself, you recently purchased a Rad Power e-bike. First, what made you decide to get one, and how are you liking it so far? Also, what's your favorite place to bike in Culver City?
This is much lighter. Thank you, girlfriend. Not that I didn't enjoy that first question, but it was important. One, I absolutely love it. So I had been looking for an e-bike for some time, and it's just a big investment, a big cost investment. So I was like, oh, I don't know which one, looking at reviews, like I'm asking people who have e-bikes, how do you like it? Which one do you have? So all this gathering. And then I forget who told me about the sale, but as soon as I saw that price, I said, oh, we here. This is for me. This will be my bike. And if it doesn't work, at least it's not as significant as an investment as some of the other ones I have been looking for, but I love it. In terms of where my least favorite area, though you didn't ask me, I live in Fox Hills, which is the densest, most diverse neighborhood in Culver City. We don't have any bike lanes here. Folks do travel very, very quick on high speeds in our neighborhood. So this is my least favorite area to bike in, but I love the bike path. I love, or Ballona bike path. I love traveling downtown. Hopefully, I'm hoping when it warms up a little bit, Councilmember Pusa and I will be able to take our bikes to to council meetings and ride back together. But I am loving it. I really think we should be doing all that we can to encourage folks to kind of get out of their cars and cut down on the VMT in the community and make it safe, as safe as possible for folks to get around in alternate forms of transportation, because unfortunately most of Culver City is designed for cars.
Yeah,
I hope
that
I got all your questions.
Yeah, you did. That was a killer sale. I know like 5 people who wanted it at that price tag. It's good to see that a lot of people got on that. So next up is Bubba again.
I got the bike too from that sale. So yeah, we got to go on a ride soon. Now that Move Culver City has been in the ground for well over a year, thanks to you and your support of it. How do you feel about how people have reacted to the project, and what's the status on efforts to remove it, to water it down, and also efforts to expand it, like to Jefferson and Sepulveda?
Yes, Move. So excited. Move was like one of the first big, I was like, wow, local policy really matters. I mean, it, but to see it and feel it and see all those folks. I remember that kickoff like it was yesterday. So yes, love Move. Very in favor of expansion. When I hear from neighbors about how it's changed their lives, how it's made it safer for their kids to go back and forth to school, how they're taking less trips with their cars, and for our service workers and folks who work downtown and they're just posting them going by all the cars sitting in traffic. And when you I think about Move as an equity issue. I don't know if everyone does, but when we look at the data about who is more likely to bike or who takes Metro and those incomes and even some of the other demographics, it is important that we are encouraging, not just as a sustainability or an environmental lens, but we need to make sure that folks can get around in an efficient, reliable manner. And so I am so dedicated to hopefully expanding. I mean, it almost feels like the current agenda of the council majority is to roll back everything that we have done, plus add a mural or two for aesthetics, you know what I'm saying? I don't say that I enjoy art as much as the next person, but there are, I think there are bigger issues sometimes. Not saying we can't chew gum and walk, but I hope I'm touching all these. I should have took notes on the full question, but excited about Move. Of course, we hear from folks who detract and say, I'm sitting in traffic and I don't like this and we need the extra lane. But I love to see, so there's some videos about what the street used to look like before and how it was also full of traffic. And I like to ask folks, I'm like, yeah, because the only street that we have traffic on is on Move. There's no traffic anywhere else in Culver City, right? It's just a false equivalence that the only place we have traffic, the only place you can't get anywhere quickly, and just the expectation. And, equity requires that folks with power, folks with privilege give something up. I like to say, because we can't have it. I mean, I believe in abundance, but, everything can't be the same if we're making sure that folks have what they need to thrive and making sure that we're making adjustments to do the things that we need to make our community and our future, our air, all these things better for all of us, for our collective well-being. And if it takes an extra minute or two, just leave a minute or two early or do a different route, or get on the circulator or get on your bike, which is something that, I've been able to do more of going downtown. So I mean, these are behavioral, cultural shifts that are difficult, and I empathize with folks because change, even when it's good, is difficult. So I definitely empathize, but that doesn't mean that we don't continue to move forward. So I really appreciated the professionalism of staff and the Department of Transportation. We just got a new head for that department, but I was really impressed with the leadership of the former leader, Director Cruz, and his, dedication to thinking about things a little bit outside of the box and going after those grants and doing what he could to provide education about the project to the community, and look forward to our new Director Chang's leadership, hopefully in this area as well. So I hope I touched on everything. I really want to see more expansion. I really would love for folks who are, folks of color, folks who are it's more affordable to buy in Fox Hills versus other neighborhoods in Culver City. So I want to see some of that investment in this neighborhood as well, because we want to make sure that we are encouraging that connection and making sure that folks can get around all the major routes in Culver City, but really love MOVE and want to see it be successful. But there is an effort, and folks did have a part of their campaigns to roll back bus lanes and some of those advancements we've made, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Speaking
Thank you.
of those, we noticed that some, including some current council members, have spoken favorably about the bike lane and negatively about the bus lanes. And this is not unique to Culver City. We've noticed this phenomenon regarding the upcoming bus lane on Venice Boulevard. Why do you think there's a difference in how these two elements are perceived? And is there anything we can do about it?
Well, I wish I could wave a magic wand for you. I think it has to do with, me and my friends bike sometimes and we don't take the bus. And I don't really care about the people who take the bus. I mean, that's just me guesstimating. And also when you look at the data about who takes the bus and who relies on the bus, and what we know about how long routes can take, because we don't have investments in bus lanes and things like that to make it efficient and make it attractive, which is what we really need to be doing in Los Angeles. We do not need everyone who can drive a car to drive a car. That's a part of the problem. We need to make it more attractive for folks to utilize alternatives. Sorry, it's the end of the day, y'all. I've been talking about what it feels like all day. Alternative modes of transportation to get around. But I just think folks bike or their friends bike, and so it's in close proximity. It's something that they can touch and feel. Whereas when you see the data for folks who take the bus, and even when I worked at USC, I took the train, but I didn't take the bus. So I think for folk, not everyone has someone in their lives that takes the bus, so it's less personal maybe. I'm not sure, but I don't think we're going to get to a future that is environmentally sound and sustainable if we are not doing that investment in all the modes of transit. And we need to be working to make them all safe and efficient and sustainable. I feel like I keep saying that, but it is something that I really believe, because we're not going to get there just on bike lanes, because although we all have not everyone, many of us got that sale and have an e-bike and can travel farther and not sweaty, which I love, but it can't get us everywhere. We do sometimes need to get on a bus. We do sometimes need to get on a train, and we need to make sure that we're allowing for folks to also do that and not be sitting in traffic for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, so I don't know.
Quick follow-up. The city recently put a survey out on Move Culver City and then canceled the survey and is now doing a poll. How worried are you that the current city council may try to remove all of Move Culver City or just the bus lane or change it in some way that's not great?
I mean, like I said, I feel like this current council majority's agenda is to roll back the progress that we've made over the past few years of having progressive leadership. So I am very worried. I also think that you in order to be a leader, any kind of leader, you need to have vision. You need to, yes, we want to be responsive of the needs of our community, and we want to center, I always talk about centering folks who are most impacted. But we also has to be a power. I talk about power, I talk about equity a lot. There has to be a power analysis and how we're weighing things. And so after that survey, there were many powerful, housed voices who had complaints about that because it should only be Culver City residents. And for me, even when I ran, I talked a lot about Culver City is a place where if you live, work, learn, or play in our community, you are in our community, right? Because you can't. Culver City was a sundown town. We had exclusionary practices, which allowed for, white folks to be a part of this community. And then as that lifted, anyone can buy a home in Culver City today, but it's also, almost $2 million for a single family home and around $600,000 for a condo in Fox Hills. If you go anywhere else, that condo will be worth much more. So not to poo-poo my neighborhood because it's fun. But what I'm saying is like, yes, everyone can live here, but there are barriers now in terms of cost and class and all that. So I feel like I'm a little chatty today, but the point is, I think we should be hearing from folks because we know with the homes and jobs imbalance, there's like 60 or so jobs per housing unit in Culver City right now. And we know that folks pass through Culver City and all that, and all of those voices, right, are valuable, I think, to efficient transit. Because if we're just hearing from folks who are housed, who rarely take transit about their opinions, which are, helpful, but I don't know if that's how we should be driving policy, right? We would have very little change if we centered folks who have been lit. And again, I'm not disparaging folks who grew up, multi-generation Culver City folks. That's wonderful. That's not my story, but I love neighbors who have that story. But our community is bigger than just the folks who have the privilege to own and rent in our community. It's folks who work here, who go to school here, who learn here, and who have fun here. And a lot of folks, when they talked about their areas that they loved in Culver City, incorporated some of those things. So I think it would be better to hear from more voices who utilize our transit, which is the voices that we should be centering, versus what we have right now is folks who have been selected by this firm who we've used in the past to provide feedback, and it's going to be a majority just Culver City residents. So I'm worried. We should be worried. We should be worried. I'm sorry. I wish I had more faith that things were going to be all right, but I got y'all back. I want to see this work progress, but yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I had better news.
To bring up something that we can worry about further, Main Street has gone through several iterations since the beginning of the pandemic. It was closed 24/7 for those who don't know. And then the council voted to open it to cars on weekdays while keeping it closed on weekends and for the Tuesday farmers market. You voted against the change, which I really appreciate. Now some people have vocalized wanting cars back full time again, and the issue is coming to council on Monday. What do you think is going to happen next? And what have you learned from the whole experience?
I think that it is a policy choice that the city has made to not activate Main Street. I love Pride and Pride is coming up, save the date, y'all. Pride is coming up on June 3rd this year. So you'll be seeing and hearing more about that, which will be at Main Street, which is why I'm elevating that. But it is so beautiful to see what that activation and community engagement of a public street could look like. And we see it with the farmers market. And the city could easily activate that space and allocate resources to ensure that it's having the intended impact. But that space has remained underutilized unless, Walk and Rollers is coming up too. And that will also be, I think that's on the 18th of this month, and it will also be on Main Street. So that'll be another opportunity for neighbors and community members to go and support a mobility friendly org and see the activation of Main Street. But I think, we are so used to doing things the way they've always been done in any DV. It's like, why would we do that? That's sort of like the default. And I love the invitation to be curious. I love the invitation to try something else. I remember, I don't really like that it's open some days and not, because I think that is confusing for drivers. I think some reliability in terms of open and close is better, but if this is what we have, I wish that the city would do more to activate and make that space something that we can really use, that neighbors can use, youth can use, seniors can use, potentially some partnership with the senior center. But yeah, I would be concerned, y'all. It's, Monday, it's coming, 13th will be here before we know it. I encourage supporters and advocates to come. I know I'm probably not supposed to, but I think everyone's voice should be heard on many issues. And I encourage everyone to always come out to our council meetings, although they tend to run a little long. But, if you care about mobility, this is coming up, and it would be good to hear folks' voices about this particular matter. But I think a case for why they would want it to be closed is that it has been underutilized and has been underactivated. But I also think that is a policy choice, and we could also choose to activate the space. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. We're very excited about the recent opening of the Jackson Gate to Ballona Creek. Advocates fought hard for this gate opening for 10 years, and it took 1.5 years for the gate to be opened from the moment it passed council. What do you think the lessons are from the arguments you heard against opening the gate? Why are simple things sometimes hard?
Thank you for the question. Why are simple things sometimes hard? And some of the opposition for Jackson Gate. I think change is difficult. And I think that people, there was some of the villainization of our in-house neighbors who are occasionally on the creek, not always, but, this fear of othering, or, we cannot have our street be accessible to the creek, although there are many other streets that are accessible to the creek, and there is no more, I think there was a look at that data, there's no more crime or anything on any streets that have, access to that area. And, there was even like a lawsuit, like it's just, any change, it requires will. There needs to be political will. There's no decision that I've made so far that has made 100% of folks happy. It is impossible to make everyone happy. And so that's why you must have values. You must be guided. Like for me, my values are equity. My values are making sure that there's accessibility, that we're doing all the week more green space, more housing, right? Like these are things that I talked about in the campaign. I keep my campaign website up to ground myself in those values. Sometimes I just look at my goals, and it's wonderful to be like, oh, we did that. Oh, we did that. You know what I'm saying? Or we're working towards that. So it's not easy to sometimes do even easy things like opening a gate. But if you don't have the fortitude to say to a neighbor, I understand that this is something you don't want to do, but let me tell you about where we're going. Let me tell you about this vision where, young people don't have to cross the street and be, or whatever the story is about where we're going. And everyone's not going to, everybody might not want to go. Some people are really tied up into this version of Culver City that doesn't exist. It didn't exist when I moved here. It doesn't exist now. Culver City is very different. And so it requires an investment from our policymakers into a vision of Culver City where we can all thrive, where we can get around safely, where we are adequately funding our city, and that to truly meet the needs that we have. So I wish, but it's sometimes hard telling people who you are in community with, I'm sorry, I can't do that, and we're still friends. There's this conflation between niceness and justice that happens a lot. Like I want to be a nice person. I want to be seen as a nice person, so I can't do this thing. And you can be a nice person and not, have equity or justice driven policy decisions. And, that could be all right. But for me, I'm more interested in justice. I'm more interested in a world where my daughter, and if she should have children, where they can be safe, where they can have their needs met. And I'm interested in that vision more than, someone whose needs are all met right now, all of their needs are met, continuing to be censored, right? Because we all have to kind of give a little something up for this vision of where we're going, because we're not there just yet, but we can get there. So I don't have an easy answer about Jackson Gate. I'm very happy it's open. It's taken a long time for some bollards. And, this is hearkening back to what Bubba asked earlier, this question about timing. Like, what are we doing? What is the barriers to having staff fulfill a decision that was, a council directive? And that is something, and I guess I'm the bad guy for asking questions, but I'm fine with that because it's to this vision of us getting to the world, the community where we need to be, where people can be safe, where we have mobility options, right? So sorry, y'all, I'm chatty. Plus I'm an attorney, so I could go all day. So I hope I answered the question, but let me know if I didn't.
Thank you. Speaking of Ballona Creek, thank you for supporting the feasibility study. We're really excited about that. It was a rare moment of unanimous support on this new council. And we were curious to get your thoughts. How do we replicate that success and get the other council members on the right side of history with other mobility issues? Was this one unique just because it required no trade-offs in terms of car space to make room for bike space, or is this the start of something better?
Well, we could be hopeful. Maybe it is the start of something better. But I also think it required no one really giving anything up. It required us cutting a check, and everybody loves bikes because most folks either on their diets, either a bike or know someone who bikes. So it's like, oh yeah, I would love this. This is gonna, and that's okay. But when the lived experience is not reflective of the community, we have one renter on the council right now. I think I'm the youngest council member and I'm 34, so I'm not as young as I once was. I still feel youthful, but not so much, you know what I'm saying? Nobody makes minimum wage, right? And when we think about the demographics of the bikes and who owns a car and all these things, like all that, goes in. And I think it really didn't require much. Like it was a win-win. That didn't require, no offense. I know we appreciated the presentation, you know what I'm saying, your hard work, but it wasn't like, super controversial. Plus, it's a lot of buy-in from other partners. It helped that, you came in and had, the support already from CD5, I think. So it was a layup, but bus lanes and seating space from cars, giving something up is always the struggle, because then it's like, well, why do I have to give something up? And then I got to talk to my neighbors who got to give something up. And I don't want to be seen as this person maybe I'm conflating that last piece a little, but that means this is me editorializing. I don't want to be seen as, being this person that is bringing an inconvenience for the sake of people who are not even Culver City people, right? Because that's the inference of that survey, right? Because people who are not Culver City residents shouldn't be taking it. So they're not real, I don't know if people would say that publicly, right? Probably not, but there's that us them is right under sometimes as people say the quiet part out loud, but I think that there is a way that we could get to more, consensus on these issues, but it requires education. It requires a lot of relationship building with all of the council members, and I don't know if they are bought into that full vision of thinking about transit holistically.
So
go ahead.
No, that leads us into our next question. Speaking of the new council, how will progressive things get done with the new makeup? What are some opportunities and also some challenges that you see?
Oh, girl. I don't know. I know Councilmember Pooz and I have been since before the election results. We are working on, people always say progressives have an agenda. So we're working on an agenda, and we should have that out sometime this month. Y'all know we got jobs, we don't have no staff, we make under $10,000 a year. So it's hard for us to try to hire someone on our own to support the work that we're doing. I'm a single mom, it's a lot of, everybody got stuff. But in terms of, so I'm excited about that agenda that we're gonna put out, because I think in this world and this climate, we are constantly reacting and fighting against harmful policies. I think it's important to for our community and folks to really see where we're going, to see our blue sky, to see sort of if we had the power, these are the things that we would try to do, right? And it's just a process of amplifying those decision points that we had made really in 2022. But in terms of what can get done that is progressive, it's going to be stuff like the bike path. It's going to be stuff like murals, green space, community garden. Like, it's going to be easy stuff because when it comes to anti-camping ordinances or housing, and last night in the budget meeting, it was agendized by a council majority to discuss the suit that some cities in California are going to sue the state over the number of RENA units required. And so Councilmember Erickson agendized and got his 3 nodding heads from the council majority to talk about the cost of building such housing and how we could never, build that much housing. It's unreasonable, it's impossible. And so that's the climate that we're in, right? So that's going to come back. We're going to have a conversation about suing the state about the number of units of housing that we need to build. And so it's hard for me to see really substantive wins. I mean, everyone loves a good photo op. Everyone loves a bike lane, as long as it's not taking space away from cars. So it's going to be difficult. I think we're relying a lot on community to really, hopefully we'll have some wins in gun safety. Hopefully MOVE won't go away as we know it. I mean, hopefully that will continue to expand, but it's going to be difficult to get, because that vision of equity, that vision of a Culver City for everyone and where everyone belongs, and where we're making the space and making the policy shifts to really see that, that Culver City is for everyone trademark come to life. I don't really know if folks are really bought into that. One council member continues to, well, actually, I'm not going to, but there's a lot of centering of lived experience of white cisgender heterosexual men and their communities. And that concerns me in terms of how we get to a progressive vision. It doesn't mean that white cis het men cannot be progressive, because there are, and I love that. And we need more folks who are doing the work and are our allies and who are willing to cede space and power to make sure that traditionally marginalized voices and experiences are centered in these policy conversations. But I don't know if that is not the norm as I've seen it so far these past few months under this council majority. So I want to do everything that I can. I am in this fight. It is difficult. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more tears for me in the next 2 years. Pray for me, y'all. Show up to these meetings. We did not get it. We got maybe 10 comments in the budget cycle, which is budget stuff is probably, I'm sorry, I know I'm deviating, but y'all gave me the mic. Budget stuff is probably some of the most important meetings, y'all. And when we have meetings on, other stuff, it's like everybody is there. We sitting there for hours listening to comments. Y'all really need people in general, I'm just speaking generally, but it's good for people to show up with these work plans, because that shapes how that money, our money, gets allocated for the rest of the year. And we should have participatory budgeting. We should be doing so much more, but just as a FYI, if you want to see stuff, we just got started. It's going to come back before June. So just encouraging folks to participate more in the budget process, because it's important.
We're going to go to some audience questions now and get through as many as we can in the next 6 minutes. The
Sorry,
first one, it's all good. We love your thoughts. The first one is, how do you keep that fiddle leaf fig so healthy?
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. I need to water these plants. They just looking good right now. I'm grateful. It's been around. This was a pandemic purchase. So baby girl has been around for a little bit. I don't know. I'm a horrible plant mom. I have 30 plants around my house. I love my plants, but sometimes, so I don't know. It's by the grace of God. And I'm grateful.
Sounds good. Next question. What do you think folks who don't live in Culver City can do to support MOVE and some of these other projects, if anything? Or do you feel like maybe it's just Culver City residents in this council makeup?
Well, it might, that might be a true statement. Just looking at what the information that I have, the best predictor of future behavior sometimes is past behavior, but maybe not. I think that everybody who lives, works, learns, and plays in Culver City's opinion is valid and should be taken into account. Particularly, we know how expensive it is to be a part of this community. and who's likely to be a part of this community and who isn't. So comments are great. And you can say, like, I work in Culver City, my kids go to school in Culver City, and we love our permit families because without them, the school district would not be solvent. The school district would not have enough money to function without our permit families and students. So, you know, we really encourage folks who are part of our community to provide comments, even, you know, WebEx. You can send emails, but we need folks, you know, it's important because folks who are against this stuff, turn out, they send the emails. And so it is important for folks to see a vision of Culver City where everyone can be a part and get around and be safe. Also, are just, you know, those voices are just heard as much as the voices who are for keeping everything for cars.
Thank you. Next question, and I know we only have 4 minutes, so during our last election, we saw an unprecedented amount of money being spent for and against candidates in Culver City. Never happened to this degree. What's changed about the election environment, and how would that change your strategy in the next cycle if you were to run? And do you plan on running?
Oh, let me just get through what we got going tonight. Those are big questions. But in terms of the money, I think we should all be concerned about powerful folks are soon as that progressive trickle of policies really started to be felt, I really feel like it was Move that really took it over, because it really impacted how people experience the city. And, $500,000 went to elect my colleague, Dan O'Brien. He was successful, never saw that kind of money. And it's something to be concerned about. I think if nothing more, we need to invest more in our community members and getting to know one another, supporting one another, because we make Culver City, what it is. Not these big dollar donors, because there was a lot of misinformation, and mail was at my house pretty much every dang day. And we can't compete with that. Whether it's me or somebody else, we're never going to raise that kind of money. So we got to make sure that people know us, know our record, know what we stand for, and can run on that, right? Because we're never going to be able to have that kind of money in this climate. So
all right. One very quick last one. If you could wave a magic wand, what's one transit improvement you would manifest in Culver City or nearby?
Oh my goodness. Ugh. And it's funny because I do community cares where we focus on dreaming and imagining beyond our systems and through community to fill some of our needs that are not currently being met. So I should be so ready for this, but we haven't done one on transit yet. So maybe we should. This is telling me that we should. I feel like I already talked about this, and I think bike lanes are coming, but I would love an easier way to get connected to downtown from Fox Hills. I don't know, a transit friendly, some prioritization of that, because there are neighbors who I know who would use a train if they could, yes, circulator would be great, but we need that bus lane to go along with that circulator, because if I'm sitting in traffic and it stops, it's going to make it unattractive for someone. I don't want to say somebody like me, but, mama got places to be, people to see, things going on. My daughter got places to go. You know what I'm saying? So maybe, but we got to make sure that the infrastructure is allowing for those, improvements. So sorry, I know that was a little long, but we got to be able to connect the parts of our cities.
All good. So we have about 30 seconds left. Any last words you would like to say?
Y'all, I believe in the good. I believe that we can have these things that we are working for. And so I just want to encourage y'all to continue this fight. I think of ancestors, especially as Women's History Month. Shout out to women and women identifying folks, Black trans women. Think about ancestors like Ida B. Wells, Harriet Tubman, folks who did not get to see what we have today, and that we might not see it. Prayerfully we do, but that the fight is so important so that we can continue this work, right? All of these things are connected. The intersectionality is always present. And so I just want to encourage y'all, because I know it's hard and I know it's tough, but please see me as an ally in this work if there's anything that I can do, because I'm in it with y'all. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a great conversation, and we look forward to continuing to support your great work on the council. So have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.
See you next month. Bye.